Somebody drills into a floor 800 feet above Park Avenue. He hits a hidden power line. The explosion throws him across the room. It wasn't even the first explosion inside this building. According to the lawsuit, this was the second in 3 years. It wasn't one catastrophic mistake, just 5 completely ordinary decisions. This is how you ruin a $2 billion tower. Look along 57th Street and you'll see the row of impossibly thin towers competing purely for height, like a skyline built by people who'd never actually lived in a building. 432 Park started it. It's still the most expensive residential address New York has ever recorded, and it's the case study for how the whole idea can go wrong. Decision 1. Chase the height record, not the people who might actually live inside it. 432 Park rises 96 floors, 1,396 feet, and when it opened in 2015, nothing residential in the Western Hemisphere stood taller. Architect Raphael Vignoli openly credited a waste paper basket as his inspiration. A waste paper basket. Somehow, that's the origin story of a building that cost billions. Every floor repeats the same grid of square windows, climbing the tower's face. That image became inseparable from 432 Park. The consequence of building this thin, this tall. The tower needed one continuous tuned mass damper, spanning 8 full floors, just to keep the motion under control. But Decision 1 was never only about height. It was also a decision about who the building was actually for. And it wasn't the people signing the mortgage. The launch campaign alone cost $1 million. For an apartment building, not a movie. An Emmy-winning crew, a stunt performer known for tightrope walking between the old Twin Towers, filmed crossing from the Empire State Building toward 432 Park, with almost nothing to do with the actual apartments. It worked anyway. 104 units went up for sale with a target of clearing more than $3 billion, a record for the city. Roughly half the buyers came from outside the US, plenty through shell companies, plenty with zero intention of ever moving in. This wasn't housing. It was a parking spot for wealth, with a view of Central Park attached. A penthouse changed hands for $87 million in 2016. Congratulations to whoever bought that. A home you might visit twice a year, sitting on a counterweight system that was already a compromise. Decision 1, in other words, was never really a design choice. It was a business model. Decision 2. Split that damper in half to fit the floor plan, instead of redesigning the floor plan around the engineering. Half a counterweight on each side of the building. On paper, it looked fine. In practice, residents got creaking, banging, clicking sounds at hours nobody could predict. The kind of noise that makes a 9-figure apartment sound suspiciously like a haunted house with better views. A trash chute running straight down for nearly 1,400 feet. No baffles, no bends. Every dropped bag hit bottom at full speed, with an impact residents compared to an explosion. Every single time, not occasionally. When wind picked up, elevators slowed automatically, and more than one resident has described being stuck inside, hundreds of feet up, waiting it out. Imagine paying all that money and taking the stairs, because it's windy. By the time the third decision came along, the damage was already compounding. When engineers flagged problems with the concrete before construction even finished, the response was to get rid of the engineers instead of the problem. Not a disagreement quietly settled in a meeting room, a documented warning raised before the building was done from the people whose entire job was to catch exactly this. The solution wasn't fixing the concrete, it was making sure fewer people kept talking about it. That's not editorializing. It's what the 2025 filing itself alleges. That detail stayed buried for years, until a fraud lawsuit surfaced it in 2025, long after the building had opened, sold out, and made every headline it was designed to make. Then came the decision that turned a maintenance issue into the reason for everything that opened this video. When the facade started cracking and water started getting in, the fix on the table was straightforward. A coating to keep the water out before it went any deeper. Developer Harry Macklowe skipped it. It would have dulled the building's white finish. The fix was simple, it just wasn't photogenic. He chose a clear sealant instead, the same kind used to keep a yacht's hull shining. A 10-figure tower, held together with boat wax. Water doesn't care about finishes. It kept getting in, deeper each time, and every repair that followed cost more than the one before it, because none of them addressed the actual crack, just the symptom closest to the surface. Eventually, one of those repairs sent a contractor down to a concrete floor to trace a leak back to its source. Nobody had mapped the wiring underneath. He hit it. The explosion in the opening scene isn't a random accident. It's what 4 decisions look like when they finally catch up with each other. Then came the decision that turned defects into a fraud case. Once the lawsuit started, the response was to deny everything instead of fixing it. The Condo Board's original suit, filed in 2021, counted more than 1,500 individual defects and drew comparisons to the worst developer misconduct New York real estate has seen. In New York real estate, this building's legal history has become almost impossible to avoid. The developers called the building a treasure and described the problems as a sophisticated symphony of systems that simply needed fine-tuning. Those are the developers' own words. Fine-tuning, apparently, includes fire hazards. First it was cracks, then fired engineers, then a lawsuit, then a contractor thrown across a room. At every stage, the message from the top stayed identical. Everything is fine. This is a treasure. Stop asking. City inspectors still haven't condemned it. The official classification is closer to acceptable for now, provided the work keeps happening. Translation: this isn't finished, and won't be for a while. Independent engineers now put the facade repair at roughly $160 million, with a 3-year renovation plan on the table. The developers reject all of it. No repairs necessary, they say, and any talk of structural failure is baseless. $160 million to patch a building that was supposedly finished a decade ago. Some treasure. And here's where 5 ordinary decisions catch up with the one number every owner actually cares about. A unit on the 79th floor was listed at $135 million in 2021. It sold 2 years later for $65 million, almost exactly what the previous owner paid back in 2016, custom interior included. 7 years. 0 return. It wasn't an outlier. Units across the building have been trading 20 to 25% below where they should be, and a 2025 review found most sellers who exited after the lawsuits went public took a loss. Not a small correction. A pattern, repeated floor after floor, in a building that was supposed to be the safest possible place to park money. The penthouse has been listed since 2021, originally asking $169 million, now cut to $105 million. Still no buyer. Even at a discount, most people would call a fortune. Walk past at night and look up. Most of the windows are dark, not because anyone's asleep, and not because the view stopped being worth $105 million to somebody. The building is still there, still selling. Mostly dark after sundown, because the people who own these apartments were never planning to live here in the first place. And that's why 432 Park was never really the story on its own. It's just the first tower that showed everyone exactly what Billionaires Row was built for.